I woke up to the sound of silence. That kind of silence that isn't peaceful, but heavy, like the air itself was waiting for me to notice something was wrong. My eyes were dry, the kind of dry you get when you've slept too hard, and the first thing I did was drag myself out of bed and stumble toward the bathroom. That's when I froze. Across my bathroom mirror, smeared in thick, uneven strokes of red lipstick, were the words, "Don't trust the person sleeping next to you." I swear my blood went cold in an instant. I could feel my pulse in my throat, in my ears, everywhere. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My hand trembled on the doorframe as my eyes darted from the letters back to the open bedroom door behind me. The warning was clear, and the person sleeping next to me was my cousin. Her name was Vanessa Hart. She's not just some distant relative. Growing up, she was more like my older sister than my cousin. She was the one who used to braid my hair before school dances, the one who sneaked me into her room so I could cry about heartbreaks without my parents overhearing. When her fiancé left her just a few months ago, I didn't think twice about offering her my couch, eventually my bed, because that's what family does. At least that's what I thought. I turned slowly, my heart pounding against my ribs so hard I thought it might wake her up. There she was, Vanessa. Lying under my sheets, her dark hair spilling across the pillow, her chest rising and falling so faintly it almost looked like she wasn't breathing at all. She was smiling, not a soft, dreamy smile. Not the kind of smile people make when they're safe in their sleep. No, this smile was wrong. Her lips were curled just a little too wide, too sharp at the edges, and her body was so still it didn't look real. For a split second, I thought she might be awake, pretending. My whole body screamed at me to run, to grab my phone, to get out. But I didn't. I just stood there, rooted to the carpet, staring at her as the words on the mirror burned into the back of my mind. Don't trust the person sleeping next to you. But who wrote it? It wasn't me. I hadn't touched that lipstick in weeks. And Vanessa? Why would she warn me against herself? Unless it was some kind of sick joke. She'd always been playful, mischievous, even manipulative at times when we were kids. But this didn't feel like a joke. My mouth was dry when I whispered, "Vanessa?" No answer. She didn't stir, didn't move a muscle. Her smile remained fixed, her lashes fluttering only once as though she was deep in some kind of dream. I backed into the bathroom and shut the door, locking it quietly. My knees nearly buckled beneath me. I leaned over the sink, staring at those words again, written in thick red. My lipstick? My handwriting? No. I didn't recognize the strokes, the way the letters leaned unevenly, jagged, urgent. I splashed water on my face, trying to convince myself I was imagining it, that maybe I was still dreaming. But the water was cold, and the letters stayed. My heart hammered. This wasn't a prank. This was a warning. And then I thought of something that made my stomach churn. What if it wasn't Vanessa who wrote it? What if someone else had been in my apartment while I was sleeping? Someone who wanted me to know that the danger wasn't outside. It was right here, in my bed. I pressed my palms against the sink and whispered to myself, "Get it together, Claire." That's my name, Claire Morgan. I'm 27, a nursing student who's spent enough nights on the hospital floor to know what fear looks like. But this was different. This wasn't a patient in cardiac arrest or a child needing stitches. This was me, my life, my blood that could be spilled if I didn't figure out what was happening. I glanced back at the door. Vanessa hadn't moved. At least I didn't think she had. The mirror seemed to breathe the words back at me. I couldn't ignore them, and that's when I realized, whether it was Vanessa or someone else, I wasn't safe. When I first let Vanessa move in with me, I never thought it would end like this. If you had told me back then that I'd be standing in my bathroom, staring at a warning written in red across my mirror, I would have laughed in your face, but maybe I should have seen it coming. Let me back up. My name is Claire Morgan. I'm 27, and I live in a small one-bedroom apartment just outside Columbus, Ohio. I'm in my second year of nursing school, juggling night shifts at the hospital with classes during the day. It isn't glamorous. Most nights, I collapse into bed so tired I forget to eat dinner. But it's my life. And until recently, it felt safe. Vanessa Hart was more than just my cousin. She was family in the truest sense. She's 31, only a few years older than me, but when I was growing up, she always seemed like this larger-than-life figure. Confident, fearless, the kind of person who could walk into a room and immediately draw every eye. When I was 16, she taught me how to drive stick shift on her dad's old Jeep. She was the one who smuggled me into a concert my parents wouldn't let me attend. And when I had my first heartbreak, she sat on my bedroom floor with me until 2 in the morning, painting my nails black and telling me that boys weren't worth tears. So when she called me crying 6 months ago, saying her engagement had fallen apart and she had nowhere else to go, I didn't hesitate. "Come stay with me," I told her, "as long as you need." At first, it felt like a blessing. Having her around made my apartment feel less empty. She'd cook dinner while I was at school, light my lavender candles, even tidy up the clutter I left after long shifts. We'd stay up late with glasses of cheap wine, laughing about old times. I remember thinking, maybe this is exactly what I needed. But then the little things started. Her laughter didn't always sound right. Sometimes it stretched on too long, too loud, until it felt like she was laughing at me instead of with me. She started asking strange questions. Who I was texting, why I stayed late at the hospital, why I didn't answer my phone during class. At first, I brushed it off as her being protective. She'd always been like that. But the more time passed, the more her questions felt like interrogations. Still, I told myself she was family. Family comes first. I think the moment I really started to doubt was a few weeks before the mirror incident. I'd come home late from a shift, exhausted, and found her sitting on my couch in the dark. No lights, no TV, just sitting there upright, staring at the front door. "Vanessa?" I asked, dropping my bag. She turned slowly, almost like she hadn't heard me come in. "I was waiting for you," she said. "Why?" I laughed nervously, trying to make it a joke. Her face didn't change. "You never know what can happen when you're out this late." I remember brushing it off with a nervous chuckle, but the unease stuck with me. And then there were the nights I'd wake up and feel like someone was watching me. I'd roll over and there she'd be, sitting up in bed, eyes wide open, staring straight ahead. She'd blink, smile faintly, then lay back down as if nothing had happened. But even after all of that, I clung to the bond we shared. She was Vanessa, my cousin, the person who'd always looked out for me. I told myself she was just going through a rough time, that she needed me. That's what made the message on the mirror so terrifying. It wasn't just the words, it was what they implied. That the person I trusted most, the one I'd let into my home, into my bed, might not be who I thought she was. Because that's the thing about family. You never expect them to hurt you. You never expect to wake up and realize you might not be safe under your own roof. The morning after I found the message on my mirror, I sat across from Vanessa at the kitchen table, staring at her as if I could read her mind. She was sipping coffee like it was any other day, scrolling through her phone, humming to herself. The lipstick-stained words from the mirror screamed in my head, "Don't trust the person sleeping next to you." I couldn't take it anymore. "Did you write something on the mirror last night?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Her eyes flicked up from her phone. For a second, something passed over her face, too quick to catch. But then she laughed. Not a normal laugh. It was sharp, almost mocking. "Claire, are you serious?" she said, shaking her head. "Why would I do that? Do you think I'm 12? I forced a smile, but inside, my stomach twisted. Her answer wasn't convincing. It was the way she laughed, like I was the one being ridiculous, like the question itself was stupid. But I knew what. I'd seen. "Maybe you were sleepwalking," I pushed gently. "I mean, it was my lipstick." Her gaze lingered on me just a little too long before she set her mug down. "You're working too much," she said flatly. "You're exhausted. Maybe you wrote it and forgot." My heart skipped. "I didn't," I said quickly. She tilted her head, that smile creeping back. "Then who did? The boogeyman." It should have sounded funny, but the way she said it made the hairs on the back of my neck rise. That day, I couldn't focus on anything. My shifts at the hospital blurred together. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched, half expecting another warning to appear out of nowhere. And when I came home, the air in my apartment felt different, heavy. I started noticing things. Food would disappear from the fridge. I'd make a mental note of leftovers, only for them to be gone hours later. Vanessa always swore she hadn't touched them. "You're just forgetting," she'd say with a shrug. Her phone, which she used to leave out casually, was suddenly glued to her hand. If I walked into the room too quickly, she'd click it off and set it face down. And the bathroom. She started locking the bathroom door every time she went in, even if it was just for a few minutes. I asked her once, half joking, "What are you doing in there, hiding treasure?" She didn't laugh. She just said, "Privacy matters," and shut the door in my face. At night, it got worse. Sometimes I'd wake up and find her lying too close to me, her face inches from mine, watching me sleep. When I jolted awake, she'd laugh and say, "Relax, you were snoring." But her smile always lingered a second too long, like she was enjoying my fear. I started locking my bedroom door when I could. But the thing was, she had a key. She lived here now. There was no real boundary between us. The tension grew heavier with every passing day. I tried to talk to her, tried to remind myself that this was Vanessa, the cousin I loved, the person who used to braid my hair before dances. But every time I looked at her, all I could see was that smile on the pillow, frozen and unnatural. One night, I woke to the sound of whispering. My eyes shot open. The room was dark, but I could hear her voice, low and hushed, like she was having a conversation. "Vanessa," I whispered. The whispering stopped. She didn't answer. The next morning, I asked her who she was talking to in her sleep. She gave me this long, slow look, then said, "Sometimes I dream out loud. You should mind your own business." I couldn't shake the way she said it, like it was a warning. That's when I decided I had to know the truth. Her phone was always near her, but one night, after she went into the shower and the water started running, she left it on the bed. My pulse raced as I stared at it. The screen lit up with a new notification, a message from an unknown number. "She's starting to notice. Don't let her." I felt my throat tighten, my body frozen in place. I knew in that moment the message on the mirror wasn't paranoia. It wasn't a prank. It was real. And whoever or whatever I was living with wasn't just my cousin anymore. The night I decided to go through Vanessa's phone, I felt like I was committing a crime. My hands shook so badly I could barely hold the screen, but deep down I knew I had no choice. The mirror message, the whispers at night, the strange behavior. And now those texts. Someone was telling her not to let me notice. I had to know. She was in the shower. I could hear the water pounding through the thin bathroom wall. Steam curled under the door. Her phone lay on the bed, face down, the black screen reflecting the faint glow of my lamp. I told myself I'd only look for a second, just enough to quiet the panic clawing at my chest, just enough to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. I picked it up. Her lock screen lit up, just a 4-digit passcode. I hesitated, my pulse thundering. Would she know if I guessed wrong? Would the phone alert her somehow? Then I remembered. Her birthday. July 19th, the first date that came to mind. I typed it in. The phone unlocked. I almost dropped it right then. The first thing I saw was a string of text messages. Not from one number, dozens. Some saved under strange names like Watcher and The Voice. Others just blank numbers with no contact info. My stomach turned as I scrolled. Don't let her out of your sight. She trusts you. Use that. Make her believe. And one that made my whole body go cold. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. The timestamps showed they weren't old. The most recent was only an hour ago. I swallowed hard, my thumb trembling as I tapped into her notes app. That's when I realized the texts were only the surface. Her notes were filled with rambling entries, pages and pages of half-coherent writing. Some were written in Vanessa's voice. Others sounded different, almost like she was writing down instructions. One read, "She's weaker when she's tired. Wait until she's asleep. Don't hesitate." Another said, "If she asks questions, laugh. Make her think she's imagining things." I dropped the phone onto the bed, clapping a hand over my mouth. Tears stung my eyes. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't my cousin. At least not the cousin I thought I knew. This was someone else, or someone being controlled, manipulated. The water in the shower shut off. Panic surged through me. I grabbed the phone and set it exactly where I'd found it, face down on the blanket. My hands were shaking so badly I almost fumbled it. A moment later, the bathroom door creaked open. Steam rolled into the hallway. Vanessa stepped out, wrapped in a towel, her wet hair clinging to her shoulders. She smiled when she saw me sitting stiffly on the edge of the bed. "What's wrong with you?" she teased, her voice light but her eyes sharp. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a laugh, the sound coming out too high, too thin. "Just tired. Long shift." She studied me for a long moment before chuckling softly. "You really should sleep more, Claire. You're starting to imagine things." The way she said it, the exact phrase I'd read in her notes, made me want to scream. That night, I couldn't close my eyes. I lay awake, listening to her breathing beside me. Except, sometimes it didn't sound like breathing. Sometimes it sounded like she was holding her breath on purpose, waiting for me to fall asleep. At one point, I felt the mattress dip. My eyes stayed shut, my body rigid. I could sense her leaning over me. My skin prickled as her whisper brushed against my ear. "You don't trust me, do you?" Every muscle in my body tensed, but I didn't move. I forced myself to keep breathing evenly, pretending to be asleep. She lingered there for what felt like forever before finally lying back down. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just paranoia. I couldn't keep pretending. The warning on the mirror had been right all along. If I didn't do something, soon, I might not live to see another morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay stiff under the covers, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding like a drum in my ears. Every creak of the apartment, every rustle of sheets made my breath catch. I knew what I'd seen on Vanessa's phone. I knew the warning on the mirror wasn't some hallucination. The clock on my nightstand read 2:47 a.m. when I felt the mattress shift. I didn't move. My eyelids stayed shut, though my pulse hammered so loudly I swore she could hear it. Then I felt it, her presence leaning over me. The smell of her shampoo, damp and heavy, the faint sound of her breath, steady but too controlled, like she was trying not to give herself away. I forced my chest to rise and fall in fake, even breaths, but then I heard her whisper, "You don't trust me, do you?" My whole body turned to ice. My brain screamed at me to run, but I stayed still, praying she'd retreat. Instead, I felt her hand brush against my arm, slowly, almost tenderly. But there was no tenderness in the way she lingered, no warmth in her touch. It felt like a test. I couldn't take it anymore. My eyes shot open, and there she was, Vanessa, hovering over me, her face lit only by the faint glow of the street lamp outside my window. Her lips curved into that unnatural smile, and in her right hand, clutched loosely but deliberately, was my kitchen knife. My voice cracked when I spoke. "What are you doing?" Her smile widened. "Relax," she said softly. "I was just making sure you were safe." Safe. The word echoed like a threat. I bolted upright, shoving myself back against the headboard. "Put it down," I whispered, my hands trembling. "Vanessa, please, put it down." She tilted her head, watching me like a child might watch, a trapped insect. "Why are you afraid of me, Claire? I'd never hurt you. You're all I have." The knife caught the light, glinting for a split second. My heart was racing, my throat so tight it hurt to breathe. "Then why those messages?" I burst out. "On your phone, the notes. Who are you talking to?" For the first time, her smile faltered. "You looked at my phone," she said slowly, the softness draining from her voice. I swallowed hard. I had to. "You're scaring me." Something flickered in her eyes, anger maybe, or something darker. She raised the knife just slightly, not toward me, but into the air, her wrist loose, casual. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "They said you wouldn't understand." "They?" My voice cracked. "Who's they?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, the knife trembling in her hand, her smile returning, stretched too wide. I didn't think. I lunged off the bed, shoving past her. The knife grazed my shoulder, just a scratch, but the sting lit my whole body with panic. I sprinted down the hall, my bare feet slapping the floor, and slammed myself into the bathroom, locking the door. I pressed my back against it, sobbing, my hands shaking so badly I could barely dial 911. "She has a knife," I gasped into the phone. "My cousin, she's in my apartment. Please, you have to come now." Outside the door, the floor creaked. Then her voice, calm and sing-song, "Claire, you don't have to be scared. You'll see." It'll all make sense soon." She jiggled the doorknob, but I held it tight, my sweat-slick palms pressing it down. Minutes felt like hours. My chest heaved with shallow breaths, my ears straining for the sound of sirens. Then pounding, not from Vanessa, but from the front door. "Police, open up!" The relief that crashed over me nearly buckled my knees. I screamed, "In here, please!" The officers forced their way in. I heard them shouting commands, heard the clatter of metal as the knife hit the floor. When they opened the bathroom door, I was on the tile, shaking, my face streaked with tears. They handcuffed her, my cousin, my family. As they led her past me, she turned her head, eyes gleaming, and whispered just loud enough for me to hear, "You should have trusted me. Now you'll never know the truth." The night the police took Vanessa away, my apartment no longer felt like mine. The moment the door slammed shut behind them, the silence that followed was suffocating. My walls still smelled faintly of her shampoo, her perfume lingered in the air, and the memory of her smile was burned into every corner of the room. I didn't sleep. I sat on the bathroom floor until sunrise, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the mirror that still bore the faint, smeared traces of the message, "Don't trust the person sleeping next to you." I couldn't bring myself to wipe it clean. Part of me wanted it gone, but another part of me was terrified that if I erased it, I'd forget the warning. When the police questioned me later, I told them everything. The mirror, the messages on her phone, the way she watched me sleep. They listened carefully, but I could tell from their faces that something wasn't adding up for them. One officer, a woman with tired eyes, asked gently, "Did you see her actually write the message on the mirror?" I shook my head. "No, but it was my lipstick. It was in my bathroom." They exchanged glances but wrote it all down. Vanessa, on the other hand, denied everything. She told them I was paranoid, overworked, hallucinating from exhaustion. She claimed I'd been acting erratic for weeks, that I'd snooped through her things and made up stories. When they pulled up her phone, the notes and texts were there. But here's the part that chilled me to my core. She swore she didn't write them. "It wasn't me," she told the officers, her voice steady, calm. "Somebody's been sending those to me. They've been telling me what to do." Her words haunted me, because deep down, I believed her. After that night, she was taken in for evaluation. They said they needed to determine if she was a danger to herself or others. I thought I'd feel relief, but instead, I felt hollow. This was Vanessa, my cousin, my friend, my family. And the hardest part was that I couldn't tell where she ended and whatever darkness had taken root in her began. For weeks, I couldn't step foot in my apartment without double-checking every lock. I jumped at every sound. I left the lights on while I slept, when I managed to sleep at all. At school, I kept my phone in my hand, waiting for another message, half convinced that whoever had been sending texts to Vanessa might turn their attention to me. One night, I got a call from a detective. They'd traced some of the numbers that had texted Vanessa's phone. Most of them were burner phones, untraceable. A few led nowhere, but one line stuck with me. "We can't confirm who was behind the messages. Whoever it was, they covered their tracks well." So what did that mean? That someone else had been pulling the strings? That Vanessa was just a puppet? Or was it all some elaborate act and she was far more dangerous than I wanted to believe? The truth is, I'll probably never know. What I do know is this: trust is fragile. I let my guard down because Vanessa was family, because I couldn't imagine she'd ever want to hurt me. I ignored the signs, the strange questions, the late-night whispers, the way her laughter sometimes sounded hollow. I told myself it was stress, grief, anything but the truth. If it weren't for the warning on that mirror, I might not be here right now. Sometimes I wonder who wrote it. If it wasn't me and it wasn't her, then who? A stranger who'd broken into my apartment? Someone trying to save me, or worse, someone trying to play with both of us, pushing us toward destruction just to watch it happen? The words replay in my mind every time I close my eyes. Don't trust the person sleeping next to you. And maybe that's the cruelest part, because now, even when I sleep alone, I find myself glancing at the empty side of the bed, half expecting to see her there, smiling, too still, watching. This is the lesson I'll never forget. Sometimes the people closest to you, the ones you'd bet your life on, are the ones who can shatter it in an instant. And sometimes, the real danger is still out there, waiting. And that's the story of the night everything changed for me. A warning on a mirror, a cousin I thought I knew, and a truth I may never fully understand. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have trusted Vanessa or trusted the message on the mirror? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, make sure you like this video to let me know you want more. Share it with a friend who loves a good, scary story, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next one. Your support means the world, and it's what keeps me bringing you stories like this. Until next time, sleep well. And remember, sometimes the real danger isn't outside your door. It's right next to you.